Last module of today, module 12, the total coliform rule. Same game plan. We're going to look at the total coliform rule, and hopefully at the end, we'll be able to define the components of this rule. We'll look at the overview of the rule and various methods for compliance, because that's ultimately, that is what EPA want us to do, to recognize and know, be familiar with the rule, and then to implement those things necessary for compliance. Because when we do that, we protect our consumers, we protect the public. All right, with this rule, the total coliform rule, it established legal limits and health goals for the presence of total coliform in the water sample. Now, when we talk coliform, all of a sudden people start getting uneasy, because the first thing they think about, oh, the quality of the water is poor, or I got fecal contamination in my drinking water, and all kinds of hairs start going up, and antennas and things like that. Now, the goal is 0, to have no coliform whatsoever. And that's the reason when we do the monthly analysis on the water side, there's no numeration, there is just simply presence or absence. Presence or absence. We're going to look at the monitoring as well as the compliance component of this particular rule. As far as monitoring, how often are we monitoring these samples for coliform?
Weekly, monthly.
Okay, at least monthly is the regulation, at least monthly. And we're doing it from the distribution system to ensure the quality of the water that we're sending to our consumers. All right, sampling, when we sample, repeat sample locations. In other words, if I have a positive, and we'll go in details, have a positive, I have to go back to my positive site. In addition to that positive site, I have to go within 5 connections upstream, within 5 connections downstream, to verify whether the issue was here or in the distribution system step. Now, what constitutes an acute MCL? That is any combination of fecal or E. coli with total coliform. A total positive and a total positive is not an acute risk. It's not a violation of the MCL. If it's any combination where there's fecal or E. coli. Repeat samples, and I think you all have this in your module. Let me ask you a question. Do you all do the repeat sampling? The locations?
We have, yeah.
Okay. We have every time there is a problem? Yeah, I know that was the answer there. This is on page 12.6 as far as where you're doing the additional sampling. Going back to the routine sample, as I said earlier, within 5 connections upstream, with 5 connections downstream, all samples must be collected within a 24-hour time frame. If I have 1 sampling site, then I have to do 4 repeats for every positive. Even if that means going back to the same tap 4 times that day or on 4 consecutive days. Those are the options there. All right, so let's look at the acute MCL also on page 12-6. It says to notify the state by the end of the day. You're notified before the next business day when you know that you have a positive, especially if it's E. coli. Then you have to notify the public within 24 hours after receiving the information from the state as far as the form that you have to submit and all of that. And consider advising your customers to boil their water there. For your monthly MCL, as far as the coliform guide, it's a less serious. This will fall under the tier 2. So we have how long to notify the public with this one? 30 days. However, I still have to notify the state when. by the next business day within 24 hours. So just because it's not an acute violation, it falls under the tier 2, I still must proceed with notifying the state within 24 hours. So this is, again, where you have more than one sample in a month, total coliform positive. And then repeat is total coliform positive there. So I still notify the state within 24 hours, but I have 30 days to notify the public with that monthly exceedance of that MCL there. Exceptions to the rule are listed on page 12-7. Okay. And again, essentially what EPA says is we're giving the states for primacy the flexibility to alter certain case-by-case responses there. One would be invalidation of the total positive sample. Under certain limited specific circumstances, the state may invalidate a sample. Usually this occurs when you have a positive total and all your repeats are negative. And you can explain why this positive is not really representative because all these came back negative. If you can explain why, then they give the states the option of invalidating that particular sample there. Or reduced monitoring may be one of the options. Flexibility there. System serving, again, 25 to 1,000 persons may be allowed to collect one sample per quarter rather than one per month. EPA said once a month, but if you have a smaller system where you only have one sample point, the state has that flexibility to do the reduced monitoring there. Now the stipulation there is that there are no history of coliform contamination, and that's always the stipulation when they go to the reduced monitoring. You have to show, hey, this really is not an issue with us. So that there is no history of coliform contamination if it's supplied and protected groundwater source and free of sanitary defects there. Okay? All right, you have your monthly monitoring worksheet. Again, there's a guide to completion of that worksheet there. And for management, for when you have the MCLs and things like that, violations that are acute, you want to make sure you're following suit there. Your sample siting plan. It goes back to earlier where we were talking about the lead and copper. This is something you must submit to the state. In other words, we're going to make sure we lay out our little area, okay, whatever area, what our system we're serving, and based on that area, I want to make sure that I'm pulling representative sites. The number of samples are based on population, very good. Now I want to make sure that my sites are representative. If I have dead end, looped areas, I'm going to take that into consideration to make sure based on population, everybody is covered within that system. Okay. Once I've obtained the sampling sites, it may be a good recommendation to do alternative sampling sites, because let's say that this month or Bill address was submitted as one of my sampling sites. Bill moves away, the house is vacant. Should I go back and continue to sample from Bill's house even though it's vacant?
I would have just set the stagger in the line.
Absolutely. So you want to make sure it's an active site. That's where those alternative sites come into play. You want to make sure you have those. So submit that to the state for approval on your sites. They should be active, and again, they should be well representative. This whole siting plan must be written. And again, we're going to present it to the state there. So we're looking at location, types of water sources, the location of dead end pipes, and all of that. Cross connection hazards, shared connection. All of this goes into developing that sample siting plan. Varying population density as well as hydrants location. All of that should be something you really look into in order to make sure that you have good representative samples. Okay. On page me a page there. Page 1213 gives you an example. Okay. On this one here, where we have branched areas, again, we have 4 sampling locations. We have, again, representation of the main branch as well as those that are outshoot from the branch lines, so the mains. This would be a looped area here. If I'm collecting all my samples right here, I expect them to come back positive, because I know it has chlorine. Or am I providing 0.2 milligrams per liter free or 0.5 chloramines in those outlying areas of the distribution system also? So make sure again, and you need to be able to explain your sample sites to the state.
I know we did for the lead copper.
A little louder, Rebecca, what did you say, a little louder, please?
I just asked if Delaware was requires that.
Oh.
I know we did under the lead and copper, which they've never done before.
But we do, yeah, we do have a sample site plan that I have to update, I believe, every 2 years.
Very good. Now, once, during the sampling process, once you've obtained the containers, again, your laboratory must be certified in order to run these analyses. So usually they will provide the containers. You want to make sure the containers are sterile, that they've been processed in a way that does not invalidate the test. You want to make sure that you do not rinse the container. It will contain a tablet or solution, sodium thiosulfate. The purpose of the sodium thiosulfate is to neutralize the chlorine. Why are we neutralizing the chlorine? I thought chlorine was supposed to be in the sample. So why are we neutralizing?
You don't want to kill any of the, whatever bacteria or what you're testing for. You don't want to affect test results.
Absolutely, very good, excellent. Because it will affect the test results because most of the organisms have probably been inactivated. Probably shouldn't sit there. But it's there to neutralize the chlorine. Then you want to go through the proper sampling procedures. Now in this module, because we're just dealing with the rule, we're not going in details on the sampling procedure. That's another module. Any questions about the sample procedure though? Because we can talk about it if you need to. No? Again, you want to make sure. Do your operators work both systems, water and wastewater?
No.
No, it's totally separate.
I mean, we don't really have, we just have lift stations. We don't have a wastewater treatment plant.
You don't have a wastewater treatment plant?
And we send it to Wilmington.
Oh,
We
yeah,
have sewage
regional
lift
plant.
stations that lift it up to the force
Okay.
main that goes to the.
And they have a regional treatment plant.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Got you. Well, in Texas, it's like regional systems are few and far between. Everybody have their own water system, have their own wastewater treatment plant for the most part, as far as mud districts, cities, and things like that. And so, in order to be efficient on the private side, a lot of times you have operators running both water and wastewater. That's the reason earlier I said I was double certified in Texas, because again, it's more bang for your buck if you can put one person here, if you have 2 or 3 wells, as well as your wastewater treatment plant. Yeah, they're going crazy, but hey, you're coming out smelling like a rose. It's the way we do it. And so part of the problem we used to have at one of the old company was the fact that the operator at the wastewater treatment plant was not always very sanitized when going from a treatment plant to a water plant and collecting these samples. And sometimes our tests were compromised because of that.
Yeah, it seems like that would be a big issue, just in a wastewater plant, there's the floors and it seems like it's a conflict of interest there, going from wastewater to water treatment plant.
The truth of the matter, the way I see it now, especially after working in and around surface treatment plant, all they are glorified wastewater treatment plants.
Yes, we have the surface water plant, I guess.
Yeah,
Take the solids out, disinfect it, and send it out.
very similar process.
Basically,
Yeah.
we don't have quite as many solids as a wastewater plant.
That's true, that's true.
Our
But
solids are,
you're dealing with chemicals instead of, microorganisms. So
Yeah.
that's solids because of that. But after you've gone through the procedure, and part of that procedure is making sure, again, you're going to an active site, you've disinfected the faucet, you've taken special precaution, making sure your hands are clean, so the faucet is disinfected, and that you've properly collected the sample. You're not going to fill it all away. You've tested the chlorine prior to pulling the sample. Then you want to make sure that you cool the sample to 4 degrees. You have 30 hours to get it to the laboratory. All right. Some of the proposed changes, such as the next one, that we should cover. Look on page 12, 15. All right, some of the proposed revisions to the total coliform rule will require public water systems that are vulnerable to microbial contamination to identify and fix the problems and establish criteria for systems to qualify and stay on the reduced monitoring, thereby providing incentive for improved water system operation. In other words, find your root cause and fix it. And ultimately, that's what we should be doing with all of these issues whenever there is an exceedance of any chemical contaminant or biological contaminant here. Community systems that provide year-round residents in places like home and apartment buildings and things like that. We're going to look at the state primacy agent, local tribal government. Some of the things you want to make sure is that they're classified as community system, even though it may be you're giving water to a shopping strip or something like that, which means that the rules and regs become a little more strict. The goal, the limit for E. coli, proposed rule established a health goal for E. coli. It eliminates the goal for the total coliform. In other words, E. coli is much more specific than fecal coliform. Total coliform was the one that fell under the tier 2. So the proposed changes, not changes, is looking at eliminating the total coliform altogether and replacing it with a treatment technique for coliform that requires corrective action. Some of the proposed rules, monitoring frequency, and again, I do stress these are proposed, provides criteria that well-operated small system meet and qualify and stay on the reduced monitoring, and it requires increased monitoring for your high-risk small system with unacceptable compliance. So we're going to increase frequency there. And it requires some new monitoring requirements for seasonal systems, such as your state and national park. Goes back to earlier, we said you do a lot of camping and so forth. So these are some of the things that they are still talking about implementing in the future. Some of the proposed changes there. Okay, the goal has always been 0 for E. coli and a more specific indicator than the fecal component. And many of you all with wastewater, you don't have a wastewater permit. That is one of the changes that they have implemented, is they've gone from the fecal to the E. coli, which is more specific for human intestinal waste there. So again, on the water side, you're looking at similar changes there. Health effects, diarrhea, cramps, nausea, vomiting, serious problems for individuals with weakened immune systems. All of those can be major issues for people.
so the same effects that put the bacteria into the water are a result of the bacteria. For the most
Because
part.
again, it's coming out where?
It's a full circle thing, you know?
Yeah. Some of the selected waterborne disease outbreaks that have happened over the last 20-plus years in the various locations. One thing that I can say about this chart that's in your book, we have a lot of cases, in some cases as high as 5,000. But do you realize the number of deaths on that chart? Very few. What does that tell you? Somewhere we're getting it right. People are not dying. When you look at, again, in the early years, the number of deaths attributed to waterborne diseases, skyrocket. Christopher Columbus, sailing to the Americas, 80% of them died because of waterborne disease. The War of 1812, more died because of amoeba dysentery than from gunshot wounds. And again, Google it, go look it up. It's right at 1,000 from gunshot wounds, triple that, over 3,000 by waterborne disease. So we're getting it right. We're getting it right.
So out of all these,
Mhm.
there was only 4 deaths out of all these
When you're
reported?
looking at Missouri, the Salmonella issues in 1993, 4 out of the 4, 4 deaths there. I thought there was another one that had some deaths.
So I don't see any other ones
That's
that said
another
deaths.
one, yeah.
We're down below, that there's 7 deaths and 2 deaths, but that's for E. coli and business,
Yeah, that,
Ohio and Newark.
Yeah, on the next chart,
Yeah.
yeah, 7 out of 1,400, 2 out of 1,000. It's pretty doggone good. And even if you look at the Milwaukee case, 400,000 affected, 400 deaths. Now, no death is anything that we can say, hey, we got it down pat, because that's, our goal is zero. Zero.
I worked for the city of Wilmington many years ago before there was any, I think, federal regulation of drinking water in the early 70s. The city of Wilmington had its own, a system, and they would produce a report, an annual report. I'm going through the stockroom, I found these old reports back from the teens, like 1915, 1917. And they were interesting to read because they would cite the number of deaths from typhoid,
Wow.
typhoid fever,
Mhm.
and they considered, 17 people died this year. And I imagine that's within the city limits because the city had its own health department then. So, I thought to myself, that's a hell of a, I don't think people sometimes realize how many people have died from waterborne
Waterborne
diseases.
diseases.
It's just, it's incredible how many people have died. And I just didn't realize what the connection was for so long. And then with the advent of chlorine and other oxidizing agents and
Right.
filtration, these are huge steps.
Absolutely.
Public health.
Chlorine is probably one of the hugest step toward, again, securing health in the 20th century and a lot of things that we've done. That was a leap, a true leap. So pat yourselves on the back. You're doing pretty doggone good. So compliance, how do we comply with the total coliform rule? If there are issues, of course, we're going back to the source. Got to do the source water monitoring. Matter of fact, with the new rule, when you have positive, you're going to have to pull samples from your source water to do that analysis there. And then you want to look at your treatment, at your currently existing treatment, the integrity of the distribution system, as well as, again, additional increase in frequency with the monitoring, and make the public aware of your issues. Are there any questions, comments, concerns, or issues?
I'm good.
You good?
I'm good.
It's a lot of information still in that book. Do take the opportunity to read through it. A lot of work is put into putting that together. And then you have a nice little resource CD in it also. So what is the coliform rule? You tell me you were good, so now you have to prove that you're good. What does the rule say? What is the purpose of the rule?
The purpose of the rule is to
Measure the presence of bacteria in drinking water.
Okay, and why do we want to measure the presence of bacteria in drinking water?
Public safety.
Okay, goes back to ensure the safety. By measuring, if it's present, then there is a problem. Absolutely.
Find the source and correct the problem.
Absolutely. And who is subjected to this rule? Which systems?
all community systems.
All community systems are. Absolutely. How often should they be tested and monitored? Monthly. Very good. There's a positive. I'm going back to the source water to do that in order to find the root cause. I'm going back to the actual positive sites. I'm going within 5 connections up and down the stream. I'm notifying the state within 24 hours. And if it's just total, I'm not notifying the public within 30 days. Still, I got that 24 hours. With the state, it is always within 24 hours of notification or as soon as possible. That's becoming a
The
weird.
non-community systems,
Uh-huh.
they're supposed to do some bacteria.
Your non-transient, non-community system, because they serve 25 of the same individuals, still have to do the monthly bacteriological
Yeah, that's what I thought.
sampling, absolutely. And some of the proposed changes is also applying this to your transient systems also.
I think anybody can.
Supply of water, absolutely.
That's my
There
personal-
was one incident in New York. County Fair comes in once a year, and it was on a private well. Now, this is totally off the beaten path because private wells are not regulated. 2 deaths because of that. The well was infected.
Was it a fair, you said, the county fair?
Yeah, it was a county fair.
They just fucked all their stuff
I'm
up to this
surprised.
well.
Like when
When we like have the state fair and stuff like that, or Dover, you know, they go out and they test, I mean, those are public, they're on public stuff, but I'm sure there's places in the state where they're on private wells.
Yeah.
And I bet you they're tested.
or when he goes to like you know, when you put your RV, I would think that don't they?
As far as the monthly, yeah, that fell under the proposed, let's go
Okay,
back.
that's just a proposed.
That was
Some
the
of those
proposed.
Has to take your test.
Yeah. I have my own filters, and so we usually drink bottled water, take bottled water with us, but I can tell the further you get off the beaten path, like the neat little campgrounds that are all in the backwoods, like, some of that water just stinks, like, all different, it should,
Well, it's probably not getting used a lot
yeah, I'm sure that's part of it, that's what, you know, I always let the thing run before I.
And some of them are on private.
Yeah.
Any private, yeah, if it's a private, remember, it's not regulated, that's the deal there. But if it falls under public water umbrella, that's when there's no regulation required.
And one of them, I was actually, I kept losing pressure right there for like, I think a week or so. And I was slowly losing pressure in my shower and stuff. It's mainly the only thing I use it for. So I would have to check the connection and stuff. My hose was crimped where I was hooked to their system. The screen, I have a screen, it was actually clogged with, I don't know what it was, solids of some sort. But that's what I was thinking.
Was it hard or like a slimy?
No, it was hard. It was like, yeah, it was.
Probably calcium.
Yeah, I don't know, but I was thinking,
Something like that, yeah.
I'm getting this much like solid debris coming through, like, what am I getting out of, you know? Like, so we usually, we don't drink it, we take bottled water, but, you know, sometimes I have, because I have freshwater holding tanks too, so
Right.
I'll
So-
fill them up before we go for drinking water and then use their connections for showers and
Yes.
stuff.
So if a public water system, it's regulated private, not regulated. Not regulated. However, a lot of people on the private side, I must admit, although they're not regulated, they still have common sense when you put a little bleach in them from time to time. All right, any other comments, questions? It is approximately 3:26, and so it's time for us to review our polls or do our polls test and see how we did.